At 5, Vice President J.D. Vance making a stop at a Kansas City manufacturing plant today. He spoke to dozens of people at Milbank Manufacturing Company in the East Bottoms. And KCTV5's Samantha Boring joins us live from there now. Samantha, you were in attendance for this. What was the big focus for the Vice President?
Hey, Lauren. Well, the vice president was here to speak about what happens every day at Milbank American Manufacturing. But he also took time to celebrate Missouri's new congressional district, but also took aim at Democrats in Congress. Dozens of people making their way to Kansas City's Northeast Monday, all coming together in support of the vice president.
Bring things back here so we can be self-sustaining.
Well, a small group of protesters showed their opposition down the road. Here at Milbank Manufacturing, Vice President J.D. Vance showing his support for Made in America.
We're going to fight for great American manufacturers and the workers that they employ.
Though the vice president took time to call out congressional Democrats, saying they don't support the efforts to close the border, protect Americans from fraud, and save taxpayer dollars.
Every time we try to do something, the Democratic leadership in Washington fights us every step of the way.
Missouri Democratic U.S. Representative Emmanuel Cleaver saying he's not interested in what the vice president has to say, sharing in part, quote, "Since coming into office, the administration has devastated America's manufacturing sector by enacting illegal tariffs that have driven up prices for small businesses and killed good-paying jobs for Missouri workers." Now, there was no mention of those tariffs by Vance or the ongoing war in Iran and the rising gas prices. Some in attendance here today I spoke with say those gas prices are just something we'll have to deal with due to the ongoing conflict. Now, Vance did not take any time to answer any questions after his remarks. Live in the Northeast, Samantha Boring, KCTV5 News.